Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Talking Utter Slot with me, Scott,
And me, Pedro.
and today is a rather special day. It's 10th of January 2023. That's not that the date matters, other than the fact that it's the day which was the announcement of the range for 2023 from Scalextric. So we were all keenly anticipating what was coming, and last night discussing whether we would be delighted, surprised, or indeed disappointed.
Or in tears.
Or in tears. It happened at 10 o'clock. We watched it live. We're now going to have which was interesting, and we're going to have a quick chat about what we thought was announced, what we think about what was announced, and also what we might find irresistible from I've got to buy one, I'm pre-ordering it now point of view, but also with a nod to a few things that are worth mentioning.
Of course, when we were watching it, first off, I heard you. We were on WhatsApp, not in the same room, so we were watching YouTube at the same time. I was 10 seconds behind you on the video. Apparently, I guess that's just the server managing things, maybe. So I had the sound of you eating toast to begin with, and then as every new item came on your screen, I got the oohs and the ahs and all my giddy aunts, which I found frustrating because I couldn't see the same thing.
You were quite delighted by the giddy aunt, I think.
It was quite amusing. It made my enjoyment that little bit better, but it also added to the frustration because you were going, ooh, and not telling me what it was. And I was like, well, I want to know, what are you looking at? Never mind.
Well, that's because at one point I told you what I was excited about, and you went, "Oh no, don't do that." So I had to
Did I?
react,
Okay,
but not give it away. Anyway, never
right.
happy. That's you.
Yeah.
So we will flag up which was the announcement that caused me to reference my auntie. It's not one I'm going to buy. It's not one I'm going to buy. So that might be a little bit.
Are you guaranteeing? Are you promising faithfully that you will make purchases off of this list?
I will definitely make purchases off of this list. Will I buy what I've done, because I'm an organized sort of chap, is I've come up with 10 that I think I will buy. Whether I will pre-order them all now, I don't know. And part of the reason for that is there are still cars from last year which I haven't received, which were pre-ordered at least maybe 9 months ago.
It was interesting that the video actually makes reference to when they got to the Cobras, spoiler alert, when they got to the Cobras, they made reference and showed pictures of 2022 releases that hadn't yet got there. And I think Simon, bless him, says something like, these are due very shortly. But then they crack on and there's other Cobras.
Yeah, well, I think, again, one surprised me in retrospect, having counted it up. So we sat for 25 minutes through the presentation, lots of new product. I stopped counting when I got to 50 new completely cars or new liveries.
And that amazed me.
Yeah, and that doesn't include sort of some of the box sets and the 1/64 scale. And as you've mentioned, it doesn't include things like the Cobras, which are imminent, or the Ford Puma WRC, which is...
Yeah, they didn't mention the Puma, did they?
So there's a lot of stuff coming, and I think overall, hats off to Scalextric, hats off to the team there. Clearly, amidst of a recession, I know these plan these things, but they've come up with a bumper list.
I think they've done a fantastic list, and I am going to say that it's our benefactors, or my benefactors' input. Young Simon from Hornby, who's their brand manager, who's their product manager, who's their I don't know what manager, but I suspect, I mean, it was him doing the voiceover. And did you just hear some of the enthusiasm? Actually, one, he was full of humor. He wasn't being particularly corporate. There were all sorts of gags in there, like when he suggested that you might want to buy 25 of the Chicago police cars to reenact the Blues Brothers. I thought that was quite funny. And he was, at one point, I urge you to watch the video of the Gitan, is it? Capri going around Goodwood. And he's clearly passionate. He's on, I think, pretty much the same wavelength as you and I, and possibly a lot of other silver foxes. So I think top marks to him. And I still, does that get me off the £3 that I owe?
But now that you've accused him of being the same age as you and I, probably not. No.
Oh, he's not the same age. No. He's on the wavelength.
I'm not even sure that's terribly flattering to say that somebody's on the way. Anyway, we'll move on.
Apologies, Simon. Sorry. I will pay you £3. No interest. Come on, then. What's your hit us up with one of your?
So I'm going to start
let's
off with.
react to the video. What? Oh, we've got another one.
I'm going to reflect on some of the things I think are very noteworthy,
Yep.
and you may or may not disagree, but I'm not necessarily going to buy.
Okay.
I think there are 3 of those for me.
Just so you know, when I write the description for this, I'm going to put something along the lines of Scott and Pedro discuss the list, and Pedro points out where Scott is wrong in his opinions.
Again.
Oh, he rolled his eyes. Go on. Sorry, I won't
Okay.
interrupt.
Okay, promise?
Yeah, no.
So, sort of a surprise, was kind of guessed by some people because of some of the teasing pictures, but I think I'm really glad it's there. Personally, I don't want one, but it's from Thunderbirds, and it's Lady Penelope's FAB1, the pink 6-wheel Rolls Royce. It's going to be complete with Parker the chauffeur and a little Lady Penelope. It's probably going to be enormous because I think the scale of the thing was huge anyway in the show, and it's great. I just doesn't necessarily something I want, but I think it's wonderful.
I think it's fantastic that they've done it. It'll sure as eggs is eggs make them a lot of. They'll get a lot of sales out of it for sure, and that's only to be a good thing. I've come full circle on my opinion of TV and licensed product like this. I am tempted by it. I don't know if I'll actually make the purchase, but I am tempted by it. I did make a comment to you. There's an awful lot of cars in this list carry branding from a certain kind of product, tobacco. And Lady Penelope famously had a cigarette holder. So I'm just wondering if Simon's going to be fully brave and model her with her cigarette holder. I suspect not.
With active smoke pluming
Active
up.
smoke, yeah.
Active smoke. We'll be disappointed if it's not like that.
I agree with you. It's a good car. I agree with you. I'm not sure. I will be tempted, but it might be like the last Batmobile that I'm tempted, but in the end, I don't actually commit.
It's one of those cars that if somebody bought it for me as a gift, I would be delighted.
It wouldn't go on eBay.
It wouldn't go on eBay. No.
Are you saying you're going to buy me one?
No.
Oh.
The other cars moving on to other cars I think are noteworthy, but I probably won't buy. The Ferrari, which I call the P4 or the 4112P, whichever you want, but the Daytona winning cars. So they're apparently going to retool those sufficiently that we're going to have the open top, the Spider version, so that they can do a 3-car set, which commemorates and honors the 3 cars winning Daytona in 1967, which was Ferrari's kind of Me Too back to Ford after they did the 3 GT40s winning Le Mans in 66. That's going to be a set. Interesting that they're retooling or readjusting some of the tooling for that. And one of the big announcements, and I think both in terms of the car and what was said about it, was the James Bond Goldfinger DB5 Aston Martin, which is going to have apparently working sort of gizmos. So we don't know what those are, whether it's bullet shield at the back, machine guns coming out the front, or
ejector
seats
triggered by something in the track. I hope, please.
Well, there's some cause for except because we spotted on the image that there's a sort of black switch type thing sticking out from underside the passenger door. So could it be that there's going to be a piece of track which triggers this, and a little odd job is going to be fired across the living room floor? We can live in hope.
The only thing is, of course, he said that there would be features, but he didn't say that. And whether he was just holding his powder, I don't know on that one. But that would be. And my predictions are famously very wrong with.
Well, we should emphasize this is our guesswork, and we're sort of a couple of saddled gets, but there you go. So those are 3 that I think are worthy of a mention. What do you think is worthy of a mention that you might not buy?
No, although I might not buy. Well, the thing is, what hasn't made my list of I'm really, really a fan of, because you said we could only have 5, which I think is.
I said 10 actually.
Oh no, you did, and I tried to knock it down to 5, but even though I thought that was a bit. The Bond Esprit submarine car. I loved as he describes it. He says something about so you can have this driving around your track like a submarine, and I'm thinking, well, the submarines are underwater, and he also does say, please don't put this in your bath.
Well, except as we proved at the Slot Rally GB way back when, probably 20 years ago, you can run cars through water because we had a water splash. and the trick is distilled water. Now, admittedly, that was only like an inch or two,
Yeah.
which, is quite a lot for a scale car. But I see no reason for a trained adult, not children, don't try this at
Oh my
home,
God.
to replicate the car driving under some sort of fish. I'm going to be disappointed if I don't see that on YouTube.
Talking utter slot does not suggest that people should be putting cars or their Scalextric sets underwater for the avoidance of litigation. The other one that I thought, well, there was, I quite like the RSRs, the 911 RSR repaints that they're doing. I thought they were quite nice. I kind of hoped when that came out last year that there would be more period reproductions of that one, and lo, it did come underpass. So I quite like the fact that those two. The one with a nod to the US market is that Harley Davidson one from the Le Mans from way back when. So those I thought were good, but I probably won't buy. The Goldfinger Mustang I think is good, but I probably won't buy. There's been a lot of hoo-ha about the Mustangs cause a lot of trouble generally, don't they? Thunderslot and Scalextrics with their sidewinder motor mounted on its side, in order that, as someone speculated wildly on Slot Forum when that was announced, someone suggested, I don't know who, that it was done purely so they could do this open top version for Goldfinger, and their prediction was correct, it seems. So I think that's notable they've done it. I'm pleased that they've done that. I won't buy it.
Well, the other notable thing about that model is that it's going to have, according to Scalextrics, the first female molded driver that they've ever done.
Doesn't that make Penelope the second then?
Well, she's the first passenger, I guess. I don't know, but it's apparently the first time. So an interesting model from that point of view. Now, I'm going to mention, in case you haven't got it on your list, but I think also very interesting, but I don't necessarily feel I want to buy one, is the Land Rover Series 1.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
So not a racing car, not really a TV car, certainly a famous vehicle.
And he suggested that the gearing in it is such that, because it's not a rubber band four-wheel drive, it's a geared four-wheel drive. And I think he suggested they've got running prototypes and they're not going to set the world alight in terms of lap time, which is interesting. I suspect that one's almost been made not so much to be a slot car, just to sort of ride on the Land Rover anniversary stuff.
Well, maybe
it has such potential, that one. I mean, you pointed out that the windscreen may fold.
Yeah, looking possibly too closely at the render, it did look as though it had the hinge on it. Now, whether it's a working one or not, it's a different question. I guess Land Rover collectors are, memorabilia, etc. It's probably quite a big market. Should say that, again, judging from the render, there is no ground clearance. This is not a rival to sort of the Ninko or the SCX Dakar type cars of the past, which are also sort of shaft drive, fairly low geared. Doesn't look like it's one of those.
But however, I suspect somebody out there will be firing up the 3D printer as we speak and the graphics package to work out how to redo that one and make it so. I think that one's got potential because, as I said to you, I reckon that there, at some point in the future, since they seem to be doing so much Goodwood stuff, there'll be a red Goodwood track recovery Landy. That's my prediction.
I think you're probably you could put money on that to earn it in order to buy slot cars. That's probably, again, talking utter slot does not endorse gambling. Right. So in terms of the things you're going to buy, if you really only have got a list of 5, I can't believe that if it's a list of 5. Have you really only got a list of 5?
No, it's actually got 6 on it.
All right. Okay.
And I'm not promising faithfully, but okay, you want one off the list? Let's go a bit left field.
Well, I've got 10, but I can't edit that quickly in my head. But
no, and I'm sure some of mine will be on yours.
Okay.
I'd be amazed if the Mirage GR8 is not on your list.
So you've gone straight for the. I think this was, to me, the biggest surprise.
Yeah,
absolute delight.
Yep.
I never imagined that Scalextrics would make a mid-70s Le Mans car that isn't a Porsche or a Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm delighted. I mean, I guess the Gulf livery factor is a huge one. I know you, but it genuinely should be on this. I hate things that all the Gulf everythings, but this is genuinely a Gulf car. It looks great. It's a lovely car. Sidewinder. I think it's probably going to be pretty quick.
It's a legit
And
golf model. It's a legit golf model that I could possibly justify making a purchase. It doesn't have anything to run against at the moment, does it? So I'm going to hope for a 936. I'm going to hope for a Renault. More open top sports cars from the 70s, please, Simon. And I'll
yeah,
give you
I
£3 for that.
I would endorse that as well. So I think it's great. So I'm definitely buying one of those.
I
Yes,
suspect I am. So that's actually, we agree on that one. What about the VL Commodore?
absolutely. Again, surprise and delight. Took me back the odd 40 years, or not quite 40, is it? Because, of course, it ran round about the same period as the TWR Rovers, and it was one of the few cars to also run on the Speedline five-spoke wheels. So so I'm guessing that they've, as well as it being no doubt attractive to the Australian market, which is reasonably significant for Scalextrics, as we know, that it's a because they've got the wheels, they did the car. I'm
Is
sure
that your theory? That
that's my theory.
they set up to make wheels first and then go, oh, we've got these wheels now. What car can we put on them? Let's go and look on the internet.
It's as good a theory as any. And
I'm not sure. I think that one's a real crowd pleaser. I mean, yes, the Aussies are going to love it. It's nice to see that they're doing more Group A stuff. It's nice that they're keeping it in line. There must be plenty of liveries on that one, and some of them I suspect, I haven't hit up images on Google yet, but some of them I suspect from down under are going to be quite entertaining liveries, Larry and attractive in that for that reason. So I think that it's going to be a bit of a brick, isn't it?
it's a big old thing. I mean, it'll be as big, if not slightly bigger than the Rover, I would have thought.
Yeah. So that, I think we all need to buy one so that they are encouraged to make big Group A type cars, and I might get my Volvo 240 one day.
Self-interest as ever. The other interesting thing about that model, amongst many of these ones, is it had Rothman's sponsorship evident on the car, and which is to be applauded. I think this is great. The car ran that way. I think that's good.
So that's
a number of the models today were shown with the actual tobacco livery.
You missed me dinging there, but that was a ding. First count of a tobacco company. How many more will there be, I wonder?
Okay, well, I hope you're going to keep track of your dings.
Yeah, well, we've agreed. I'm going to mark it off the list. I actually wrote down the names of the brands. So we've agreed on two. So you fire off one now, and we'll see if I can correct you on your choice.
Well, I sort of already mentioned it because it's the Rover. So we're still waiting on the Astos Rover coming from last year, but they've announced a Marlboro liveried Vitesse, which was the one that raced in the French Super Tourisme series, which was kind of Group A plus, but effectively the same looking cars. That Marlboro livery from mid-80s is just every car looked great in it.
Yep.
So this has looked great in it, and again, for those who know me or remember, I used to work at Austin Rover, as it was called, exactly at that time. And so this was a car which I had some awareness and affection for. So I'm definitely going to be buying that one.
Yeah, there's no way. I think Simon's safe in every SD1 that they knock out. I will have to buy. There's not many cars that are like that for me. There's a possible podcast in there, I think, but I know some people just will religiously buy any model. There's very few that I will do that. I don't like BMWs, but I will buy a lot of M1 Pro cars. And I never had an SD1. My dad never had an SD1. I always liked them, and I will always buy a Rover SD1 from Scalextric.
Never owning one certainly helps you like them.
Says the man who used to work for them. Okay, so we're 3 for 3. We've agreed.
Okay, well, this is crazily outrageous. Let's go for one which I think we might disagree on then. And it's a bit of a surprise for me. And it's an Escort Mark 1 RAC Rally 1971.
Yeah, you're on your own.
I'm on there. Okay.
Yeah.
It was one of several Escort Mark 1s which were announced. Not all rally cars. Some are modern race cars, which leave me a bit cold, but that's fine. I gather that however many Escorts they make, they sell out.
The interesting thing in his commentary was I didn't appreciate he named the series. I can't remember what it was, but he said Scalextric sponsor it. So I thought that was quite curious. And one of them is it's a Escort Mark One, yes, but it's like a modern livery because it's still being raced currently. It's contemporary, which I thought was interesting.
It is, and in fact, for some time now, and again, one of the liveries on the GT3, I think on the Merc, on some of the other cars, has been liveries for UK only race cars. So
Yeah,
I'm kind of, I mean, this is going to make me sound like a dreadful snob. Once you get below BTCC, which I think is great, British Club Motorsport leaves me kind of cold. So I know there's a GT championship, and I know there's saloon championships and endless one make championships and all this sort of thing. But whenever I find myself at a racetrack where one of these things is going on, there is nobody watching. I mean, there's the people who've come along with the people who are driving, and that's about it. So it astonishes me that they do models of those cars, because you think nobody knows what this is. But I guess they're nice, bright colours and all that sort of thing, and maybe the licensing's easy. I don't know, but it bamboozles me. I don't get why those things are interesting.
if your liking of the BT of things beneath the BTC, no, if your dislike of things beneath the BTCCCCC makes you a snob, I don't know what that says for me because I don't like the BTCCCCC. Jason Plato nerfing things around. Little anecdote: Jason Plato used to live somewhere near me. Used to go to the Sainsbury's near me, and it's got a twisty little entrance road. And one day I'm driving around there. Who was it who was cutting the corner hideously in his big black Porsche? None other than Jason Plato. I shouted at him, but he didn't hear me.
He didn't hear you. Well, I'll tell him.
I think Escort Mark Ones. I got a club car a year or two ago that's a Mark One. It's got one of those infernal FF motors in it. I don't like them. I think as a model, it is sweetly pretty. My auntie Vera used to have one, so it always will have a soft spot in my heart. I had a dinky toy one, which is always a thing that I like in Scalextric cars. I like the fact they're doing so many of them because I figure they've realized it makes them money and it's a good thing, and they're attractive little models. So yeah, you can have that one.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Anyway, next, back to you then.
For me, I suspect this is another one we'll agree on. That Camaro in that livery, very nice. TEAC, is it? TEAC written down side the stereo people.
This is the black and green one.
Various shades of green. I wonder if they'll struggle to get the shades right. Sorry, cheap shot. Yeah, I thought it's a nice livery. It's not the humid car that I was expecting, which is a bit of a dull, although it's pretty iconic if you're a man of a certain age. It's a dull white livery with red logo on it, but the one they're going with this time around, very nice. I like that. Definite purchase.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I suspect that's one of those ones when you see it in the plastic, it's going to have a great, kind of, oh, that's a pretty thing. I want that.
When you see it in the plastic, I like that. When you see it in the metal, when you see it in the plastic. So we agreed on that. So that's
no. I'm not going to buy one of those. That's not on my list. That Camaro did not make my list. I'm not a bit interested about the Bastos at all, but no, the Camaro did not make my list.
Oh, controversial.
Well, my 10 were quite tight actually.
Yeah. All right. What shall I go with? Okay, here's another surefire, guaranteed. You will agree with me. Mark One Jag.
Yes, the race car.
Yes, really.
And the race, because they showed a race car and a police car. I think
one police car is a Mark II, I believe.
Oh, sorry.
You're going to be correct.
I think it's on my list. The slight reservation, and this is again peculiarity of me. This is in one of many classic cars which they are doing in a livery from modern historic racing, principally Goodwood. I would rather it was in a period livery.
Would you?
That's just me. I mean, I have, Goodwood is a wonderful thing. It's only down the road from me, and I'm spoiled that I exist at the same time as all of that sort of goes on, and I used to get involved in it through work, etc. But it's just, I just get fed up with the sort of the omnipresence of Goodwoodness. But the real reason, I think, for historic race cars, and again, one of the cars we haven't mentioned, one of the liveries for the Cobra is a metallic purple, which apparently raced at Goodwood.
Revival,
I struggle to imagine it raced in that livery in real. It maybe did, I just don't know. But it certainly doesn't look like a period livery. And so again, it's one of those other Goodwood connections I'm not for. But I've got to thank Goodwood because the growth in historic motorsport over the last 20 odd years. It really has been a big driver of that. And I don't think we would have all of these classic cars that we're enjoying, right back from the Maseratis and the Van Walls from, what's that, 20 years ago, right through to these Capris and SD1s, because that's what's really flagged up the popularity of classic and historic motorsport, and we're getting the nice models of them. So a bit of a love-hate relationship with it there.
I think that the modern, for want of a better word, liveries on the old historics actually make them look a little bit more exciting, because 9 times out of 10 in my head, a classic livery on a Jag, on a Cobra, was a white circle with a black number on it, and that was it.
Great.
I like a little bit more. I don't want the full NASCAR stickers down the side, thank you very much, but I do like the idea of a little bit more interest in the car, on the car. And that Jag, yeah, that looks like a keeper. I'm curious to know what kind of motor it's got in it. I don't want it to have an FF, because it's presumably quite small.
It shouldn't be big, that's for sure. Interestingly, Simon said it's one of the most expensive toolings.
The police car one, yes,
that they've ever done, which again will probably means full interior.
Oh, I think on the police car, I think he did say something about full interior. Oh Lord, does that mean the motor's going to be at the front?
Time will tell.
That will be, I could swear blind now that I might be buying some of these cars. And then when they announce that either A, it's got an FF motor, or B, the motor is where the real engine was in the car, a la Fly's way of doing things, that would be a real, no, I won't bother, which is a shame.
That's interesting. Well, we'll have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
What else have you got on your list?
Well, I've only got one more.
Go on then.
Which I'm slightly surprised about, but the Lotus 79. I heartily approve of the Lotus 79 in the Martini Rosso livery. I like that a lot. I think I'll get one. I'm hoping that fellow off the forum, Andrew Rowland, is it? He'll do an adapter thing so that you can get the polycar gearing into it and make it go just that little bit better. Regardless of that happening, which I'm sure will happen, I will find it hard not to buy a Lotus 79 in those Martini colors, because that's classic.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. Again, just for explanation, a bit of a surprise. They showed a twin set, which is going to be the Lotus 79 in the more famous GPS Mario Andretti championship winning livery, which means there'll be a Ronnie Peterson one at some point, no doubt.
What? He drove one of those?
He did. He died in one of, well, he didn't die in it. The accident from which he died was in a Lotus 79.
I didn't know that.
But the twin set is with a Brabham BT46, I want to say, which is the fan car, or it's famous for the fan car. Only ran in one race, which it won.
And in the box, he said something about they're going to have a little plastic dustbin.
The dustbin lid, which you need to explain why that's a cause for it. Why is having a plastic dustbin lid exciting?
Well, I don't know the full story, but I think I have heard of it a couple of times, in that it was such a revelation and such a leap in technology, and they were concerned about maybe its reception. I guess they must have known that it was going to chuck gravel out the back, and so they borrowed a dustbin lid from somewhere around the Swedish track and sort of disguised the fan with a big dustbin lid, which in itself must have looked pretty darn weird to everyone else. Like Colin Chapman was going, why have they got a dustbin on the back of that car? I don't get as a smokescreen. I don't think it worked. But apparently, according to Simon, they're going to include a little plastic dustbin lid in the set, which I think actually makes that set even more appealing.
It is a lovely touch, actually, isn't it? It's a lovely touch. So I think the other thing, that car, the twin set is going to be the GPS Lotus, and the fan car Brabham. Separately available is going to be the Brabham without the fan, which is the way it ran most of the year, and with John Watson driving it. And as you've said, the other 79 is going to be the Martini liveried one, which was a lot less successful, but is quite pretty in its own way. So those are the cars. I had the fan car, and oddly, I want the fan car and the Martini 79. So whether I have to buy a set just to get it. Interestingly, and I went out at lunchtime and had a quick play with them. I've got an old SCX Lotus 79 GPS and an old SCX Brabham, not the fan car, but the same Brabham.
I have
So
the
I've
Brabham.
already got those cars as models, and that's an interesting possible future podcast discussion. Buying the same thing twice. Why do we do it?
We're fools.
The only two cars I haven't mentioned, and probably, and you'll see this is predictable because I'm a bit of a rally nut.
This is predictable, Scott, because you're a bit of a rally nut, aren't you?
Thank you for that.
Yes.
One is the Escort Cosworth Repsol livery from '97, and it's completely new tooling. So I mean, this car was done way back when, but completely new tooling, and there's a number of liveries, but the Repsol one, and also completely new tooling, the Subaru Impreza WRX Colin McRae 555 car.
I'm not going to yawn at that one, but I'm not super excited. But again, it's one of those ones that I think they will just sell like cakes that are rather more than warm. They will just leap off the shelves. They're going to go really well. The Cosworth, completely new tooling, lots of repaints, but just sticking Carlos Sainz's name on the side window means ka-ching, 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 certainly in one kind of Mediterranean country. And the Subaru, yeah. Not an epic fan, but lots of people are.
Yeah. Well, interesting. We mentioned, I think your dings dried up, but you were dinging every time.
Oh yeah, I forgot my dings.
Interesting. So there was definitely a Marlboro, there was a Rothmans, there was an
Oh no, I'll hit you with the list. There was Camel, Nakajima's Lotus, Marlboro, Gitan, I don't know if I say that correctly, Belga, Benson and Hedges appears on M3. Embassy appeared on what? An Escort?
The Escort rally car, yeah.
The Escort rally car, and Rothmans on the Commodore. And I think I'm actually, having said that, missing something because you just said something, but it's gone. But I counted 7 Siggy companies.
Well, which is interesting, and I applaud it because they are models. But interestingly, the Subaru, as shown in the render,
yes,
has the
bananas.
so-called bananas rather than the 555 and stuff. So it's interesting choice. Now, whether that's because the feeling is it's more famous in that livery, or whether that was the livery when Colin won. Is that the livery he won the REC with?
I don't know, but I also wonder if that's just another repaint, isn't it? Possibly for Far Eastern markets, possibly, or just generally, it's another relivery that they can get out of that mold. So yeah, top marks to them. It's a curious livery, that one. I kind of can see it's iconic, but it doesn't talk to me. But then maybe Scoobies don't talk to me.
So interesting. One thing we haven't mentioned, the modern F1s.
Yeah, it was a surprise.
Both of us cool, but there's 2 new modern F1s, which are, as we were warned, very long models because modern F1s are very long. I'm trying to think what else was a kind of unusual.
I don't know if it's unusual, but there was a Mini with really fat arches. I don't know what kind of type of Mini that is, but isn't that young Simon's thing as well? Little Minis. It basically is Simon making a Hornby list to suit him.
Well, that's fair enough. He's the brand manager, and it's his job to be in tune. And if he's got now, I said before, we maybe similar in our tastes with some subtle variations. We're of a certain age.
Yeah,
we've got very excited. I don't think anybody's disappointed or angry about that list.
No.
Whether there's enough to excite the young folks is a different question. And it'd be an interesting point. How many young folks buy stock cars?
I was going to say how many young folks actually are buying cars and not paying for streaming services and that kind of stuff these days, or playing online games. Yeah, it's a very interesting list. I think he says something. I wrote down there. It says something like, it's a bit out there and a bit outlandish. And I think as a range, Carrera, somebody posted up, Luke from I think he's Belgian. Oh God, he might be Dutch. I'm not sure. Fast Lucky on Slot Forum posted up a list of that Carrera are planning. And I read through it, and there were no pictures to help with the excitement, but I just read through the list and went, there really wasn't much in there at all. I don't know how many of their molds are new, but this is a genuinely exciting list of cars that they're going to do for Scalextric. So
I agree. I mean, it indicates either fantastic confidence or great optimism about where the market's going to be.
Yeah.
But as I think as we've gone through them, most of these things all sound like we say, well, those will sell well in different and lots of liveries.
I think you're possibly right to question some of the parochial stuff, the British series escorts and minis, but we'll wait and see.
Just not my thing. I mean, it may be that lots of people buy them because they actually know them and can see them. You know, that's the kind of. But it's just not my thing. So all in all, I think to sort of to say well done to Scalextric. Genuine excitement about today, and it hasn't disappointed. And kept us amused and entertained. Well done, and I hope there's a big success for them. And I hope when you see Simon and you're going to give him his money back.
I might give him his money back. I don't know.
Might give him his money back. That we get a chance to say, well done, congratulations. What we could do is buy him a coffee with the money he lent you to get into the school.
Well, I'll hand back his money and then say, "Oh, I'm a bit thirsty. Would you like to buy me a drink?"
That's probably the most accurate prediction of the whole show, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Anyway, listen, thanks for listening. If you've listened this far, hopefully you've entertained us. As I've said before, when we get a website or something, you can leave comments, but we can't do that just yet. But you can always go to Slot Forum because we're both on there, and you can tell us, as Peter said at the beginning, how we've got it wrong. All right. So
thanks,
we'll say goodbye.
Cheerio.